Hey, counting calories won't work. Here's why. Now, before I go into explain it, actually, here's a little disclaimer when it comes to counting calories. You will not lose weight unless you are in a calorie deficit. That is science. You have to be consuming less calories going in and more calories going out to actually lose weight. But the problem with counting calories is that it doesn't work for many people. There's several reasons why this is. Either they stop doing it because it becomes too hard, they can't do it very consistently, they're not actually sure how to do it, overcompensate or undercompensate, and they get pissed off and fed up eventually. So if counting calories is something that hasn't worked for you in terms of losing weight and getting in shape, shall we say, then consider this approach instead. Count your protein levels. Now, a lot of people have heard about protein, and I did a video previously on the protein scam and how, marketers are catching on to this and how people are saying you should buy this product because protein. Now, protein's important, but the main thing that protein is important for is growth and repair in the body. So if you do a challenging session at the gym, for example, your protein levels need to be slightly higher to be able to repair from the damage you've done to your muscles, etc., so that you grow back bigger and stronger. Now, when I mean bigger and stronger, you ain't going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight or even in a few weeks or months. You need a hell of a lot of steroids and a hell of a lot of great genetics for a body like that. However, if you just want to get in shape and you want to lose some weight, you're probably watching these videos because that's kind of what you want to do. You want to get into a healthy lifestyle, you want to feel good, you want to look good. And when it comes to weight, it's a thing that we're in an epidemic of. Many people are struggling with their weight and they've tried counting calories and they've tried this diet and they've tried that supplement and they just can't get a handle on it. Counting your protein levels can be a really, really great thing to get the best results for many people. Why is that? Well, if we consider this, when you count calories, right? Let's go into it. When you count calories, everybody's calorie target is going to be different. Now, depending on your activity levels, depending on your age, your height, all the rest, you can go to a calculator website, a calorie calculator, to find out what's the best for you. I recommend calculator.net and using the calorie calculator on there to calculate what you should be having. Now, let's say, for example, you are a 100 kilo person and you are fairly active, but not massively active, and your average calorie intake per day should be 2,000 calories, as an example, right? Again, this is going to be different for everybody. If you're 4 stone overweight or 5 stone overweight, your calorie target's probably not going to be 2,000. It might be 3,000 or 4,000, depending, all right? And likewise, if you're quite thin, your calorie target, just to make sure you're maybe getting enough, might be under 2,000. But just to forget any confusion, let's just say your target's 2,000. Now, the person who's counting calories for a 2,000 calorie target might overcompensate on certain things and then get frustrated. They come to 4 o'clock and they've consumed all their calories. They've hit 2,002 calories, say, for example, they've went over. But what they haven't done is calculated it correctly. But also, likewise, they might be undercompensating, whereas they go out and have a meal at lunchtime and they put in what it is in their MyFitnessPal, or they estimate the calories and think, this is a salad, there's a bit of chicken on it, it's probably about 400 calories in this. But what they didn't see is the chef put oil all over, probably about 3 or 4 tablespoons, thus increased the calories by about 500. Just by the oil sprinkled over. If that person wasn't aware of that, then they're undercompensating. Do you see how this can get quite confusing sometimes? So then they start to get frustrated because they're not counting their calories properly. They're getting annoyed and frustrated because they're not losing weight. So the advantage of counting protein levels over calories is a different mindset. Why? Because calories, you're trying to stay under a target, which can be quite frustrating because it's teaching you restriction. You can't have over this. It's not a bad idea for some people, but for a lot of people it won't work because it's a large number as well. You're talking thousands, it's big numbers, and you're trying to stay under a target. The advantage with counting protein levels is that you're trying to work up to a target. You're trying to actually hit a target rather than stay under it. Now, this is good because it's not inviting restriction. In actuality, counting a protein target for a day is often getting you to eat more. Now, that might seem a disadvantage if weight loss is your goal, but let's consider this. When you eat more protein, and ideally more single ingredient protein, there's a few things happen. Majority of single ingredient proteins are less in calories than what their equivalent carbohydrate would be. And the fact is, when you start eating higher amounts of single ingredient proteins, by that I mean eggs, fish, meat, chicken, etc., what tends to happen is you can't really overconsume that stuff. Have you ever tried to eat 4 or 5 boiled eggs in one go? It's really fucking hard. But have you ever tried to eat 2 slices of bread, a packet of crisps, a chocolate bar, a Maltesers, and then a fizzy drink? Yes, you have, and you've consumed much more than that in one go. Because it's easy to consume carbs and fats, but when it comes to protein, it's harder to consume higher amounts. Meaning that even if if you feel like you're eating more food, you actually are likely to be consuming less calories. Now, that's a great advantage for someone who's trying to lose weight and get in shape. Not only for the calorie advantage, but also for the fact that you're increasing your protein levels, which means, especially if you're in a good exercise routine, your growth and repair levels are going to be accelerated, meaning that you're going to be able to train harder the next session. You're also going to be feeling more satisfied, because what protein does is it helps you feel fuller for longer. It's as simple as that. What happens with carbohydrates, as we know, is that's why we can consume crisps and bread and sweets and chocolates and lots of potato, because it tastes nice and it feels good and it's not as filling. So we tend to consume much more calories when it comes from carbohydrate sources than protein. So the advantage is quite clear and simple. Now, when it comes to how much protein you should be having, this is going to vary depending on the person. Now, I give the advice of going 50% on this as a starter. Now, if you're new to counting protein, now a seasoned bodybuilder or a gym veteran will tell you 1 gram per pound of body weight, or you could average that out as 2 grams per kilo of body weight, right? So for example, ideally the 100 kilogram person, if you weigh 100 kilograms, your daily protein target should be 200 grams. Now that's a hell of a lot less than 2,000 calories. Your goal, if you're 100 kilos, is to try and build up to 200 grams of protein per day. Now that's really hard if you're not used to eating a high protein diet. Very, very hard. So what I always say to newbies, for the first few months, when you're getting used to eating more protein on a regular basis. By the way, as a side note, you get told that high protein is bad for you, bad for your kid. You get told that red meat's really bad for you, so people avoid it. Most of that advice is bullshit. We don't have a red meat problem. We have a processed food problem and a sugar problem much more than eating single ingredient foods. So on that note, if you were to increase the level of protein in your diet, I would start, if you're a 100 kilo person, 1 gram per kilo of body weight. That's about a 50% reduction in what you should be having if you're living a healthy, active lifestyle. But it's a lot easier to get into eating 100 grams than it is to eating 200 grams. Let me give a little example. If we think of 1 chicken breast, that's around 25 to 35 grams, depending on the size of the breast. So if we were to consider 100 grams a day, that would be the equivalent of 4 chicken breasts every day. As you could imagine, that's quite a lot, isn't it? And if you couldn't possibly consume that in one sitting. Even over 3 sittings, let's say you had 2 at lunchtime, which would be very challenging, and then you had 2 at tea time, you'd be feeling pretty full off that, as you can imagine. So I wouldn't recommend just getting it from chicken, but that's an easy source. You could look at eggs, you could look at cottage cheese. Yes, you could look at whey protein and protein shakes, although I don't recommend them, to have them as a massive source of protein in your diet. If you consider it, that's hard enough to start with. So for the first few months, 1 gram per kilo of body weight. Then look to getting to 1.5. So if you're a 100 kilo person, start off with 100 grams every day, then 150 grams every day, then eventually leading up to 200 grams. Now, obviously, it's always best to have a regular training program, some kind of resistance training, body weight training, activity levels, which are going to, be advantageous to you eating a higher protein diet. And also, you're going to benefit better from that style of eating when you're training regularly, because most people don't have a massive problem with the training side of things. They find the diet side of things much harder, which is why it's so hard to get a handle on your calories for weight loss. Very difficult, because it's teaching you restriction. It's a great way for a lot of people, and it works, and I'm an advocate of it actually. I teach my clients it, but I also talk about protein as well. And I think you've got to look at so many different ways to do it and choose a way that works for you. But not just a way that works for you, one that you can consistently get used to and enjoy as a way of life. Because the last thing you want to be doing is counting your calories or counting your protein for 3 months up until Christmas. You wear the black dress, you get in shape for the wedding, you do this for a certain time, and then you stop and you just eat shit and go back to what you used to do when you were out of shape, unfit, fat, unhealthy, whatever. The last thing you want to do is go back to bad habits. You want to do it enough times so that good habits stick, which is what I promote in terms of it being a healthy lifestyle. Now, in order for something to be a lifestyle, we need to do it regularly enough. And I think, and what I've found through coaching, over 1,000 people over the last decade of being a healthy lifestyle specialist, I've noticed that when it comes to getting a handle on diet, one of the easiest ways to eating better is to increase your protein, because it satisfies you more, it gets you gorging less on shit, it gets your feet, often under your calorie target because it's a struggle to make it up to the protein. It just makes you feel better because you don't have those blood sugar highs and lows, and it makes you recover better from intense exercise. So it's a win-win. So consider this. If counting calories doesn't work for you, try counting protein instead. If this video has been useful, tag your mate in it, click the share button, click the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. See you soon. If you'd like to learn how to create outstanding levels of energy, motivation, and self-control, my second book, Supercharged, the modern day guide to doing exactly that, is out now.